The hydros smashed 17 worlds into radioactive debris without any resistance, but Zephyr knew that number 18 would be far more interesting, as the Saurian ship carrying him entered Earth's orbit. The ambassador's large black reptilian eyes flicked over the armrest display, reading the latest intelligence reports. No species had ever survived contact with this interstellar water-based lifeform's corrosive outer layer. Even the Council's most advanced technology had proven ineffective against its planet-engulfing mass. Zephyr's clawed fingers tapped the intercom. "This is Ambassador Zephyr requesting an immediate meeting with Earth's leaders. I come with an urgent warning." 2 hours later, Zephyr found himself in a stark white conference room, facing a grim-faced group of humans. At the head of the table sat UN Secretary-General Terry Sullivan, his brow furrowed. The Saurian launched into his dire message without preamble. "A massive creature called the Hydros is heading for your planet. It will arrive in a matter of days. Your world will be reduced to molecular components, dissolved to fuel this beast's growth, just like the 17 before you." Sullivan leaned forward. "What can we do? Can it be stopped?" "In over 1,000 years, no one has discovered a way to stop it, not even the great Krill Empire at its peak. I'm afraid evacuation is your only option. The Council will assist in relocating as many humans as possible, but you must begin immediately." Sullivan shook his head vehemently. "Evacuation on that scale is impossible. There are over 8 billion of us. We have to find another way." Zephyr's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand. Fighting the Hydros will only lead to more death. Please, see reason." But Sullivan was already calling for his top minds to assemble. Over the next several hours, a risky plan began to take shape. If they could hit the creature's core with a massive coordinated nuclear strike at just the right moment. Zephyr listened in amazement, wondering at the audacity of it all. The Council agreed to enhance the warheads with some of their technology, but the odds of success were still vanishingly small. As the doomsday clock ticked down and panic began to grip the globe, Zephyr couldn't help but marvel at the humans' sheer stubborn refusal to accept the inevitable. He had no idea if their desperate gambit would succeed, but one thing was certain. The Galactic Council had never seen a species quite like this before. Win or lose, the humans were going to go out swinging. As the Hydros entered the solar system, its colossal form blotting out the stars, Terry led a fleet of Earth's most advanced spacecraft to intercept it near Jupiter. The ships, armed with nuclear warheads enhanced by Saurian technology, represented humanity's last hope. Terry's voice crackled over the comm. "All ships, prepare to engage. We hit it with everything we've got on my mark." His heart raced as his finger hovered over the launch button. 3, 2, 1, mark! A barrage of nuclear missiles streaked towards the Hydros core, the spacecraft shuddering from the force of the launch. But to the crew's horror, the missiles passed harmlessly through the watery form, detonating in the empty void beyond. The creature continued its implacable advance, unscathed. "No effect!" The frantic report came. Terry gritted his teeth. "Fire conventional weapons! Ramming speed!" The human ships unleashed a torrent of projectiles and laser fire as they hurtled towards the Hydros. But it was like shooting into an ocean. The creature's fluid form absorbed the impacts, and its corrosive touch began to engulf the ships, dissolving them like salt in water. On the Saurian ship, Zephyr watched in disbelief as human crew members ejected from their disintegrating ships, plunging directly into the Hydros mass. "They're insane. They'll be dissolved instantly." But incredibly, the humans swam through the creature's interior, unharmed. They moved with purpose, as if the deadly fluid was nothing more than water. Terry's voice cut through the astonished silence. "Zephyr, it looks like we can survive inside this thing. I'm taking a team in. We need to find a way to kill it from within." Minutes later, Terry and a group of volunteers, including a reluctant Zephyr, entered the Hydros clad in Saurian underwater gear. They found themselves in a vast, pulsating chamber, the creature's glowing core visible in the distance. Terry took an experimental breath and was shocked to find the liquid breathable. "My God, it's like air to us. Take off your masks." As they swam toward the core, Zephyr's suit suddenly ruptured, the Hydro's caustic fluids rushing in. He screamed, his saurian flesh dissolving. Terry dragged him back, the ambassador's blood staining the water. Human physiology, Zephyr gasped through the pain. Something about it, immune to Hydros. That's why never encountered anything like you. Terry's mind raced. Human immunity. It was their only advantage, their only chance. He turned to his team, eyes hard with willpower. We have to get the warheads to that core. We set them off manually. We won't survive the blast, but Earth will. With Zephyr fading fast, they swam on, each stroke a countdown to sacrifice. Terry sent one final message to the surface, his words echoing through every comm channel. This is Secretary General Terry Sullivan. We've discovered a way to destroy the Hydros, but we can't do it from the outside. We have to detonate the warheads at its core, and only humans can survive the journey there. We won't be coming back, but we'll take this thing with us. All remaining ships, fall back to Earth. Protect our home. This is our choice, our duty. Sullivan out. He cut the channel and turned to his team, the weight of their mission settling on his shoulders. The core pulsed ahead, growing larger with each stroke. They had one shot, one chance to save everything. No turning back now. Terry and his team swam deeper into the Hydros, their arms wrapped tightly around the nuclear warheads. The liquid surrounding them felt cool against their skin, almost refreshing. Terry took an experimental breath, the fluid filling his lungs without discomfort. It's like breathing air, he said, his voice clear despite the watery environment. How is this possible? One of his team members, Dr. Nadia Chen, spoke up. The fluid must have properties similar to perfluorocarbons. It's carrying oxygen efficiently to our bloodstream. As they pressed forward, the bioluminescent core of the Hydros grew brighter, casting an eerie blue glow through the translucent liquid. Suddenly, a loud ping echoed through their comms. Unidentified vessels approaching, warned their AI assistant. Terry's heart raced as a group of sleek alien ships materialized before them. A gruff voice crackled through the comm system. This is Commander Azoth of the Saurian fleet. Human vessels, stand down and evacuate immediately. Terry opened a channel. Commander, this is Secretary General Sullivan. We've discovered... Your actions are futile, Azoth interrupted. We've studied the Hydros for centuries. No species has ever defeated it. But we're immune to its effects, Terry argued. We can reach the core and... Enough, Azoth's voice boomed. The Galactic Council will not tolerate further interference. A massive weapon appeared on Terry's display, dwarfing the Saurian ships. This weapon will disintegrate the Hydros, along with any nearby planets, Azoth stated coldly. Terry's blood ran cold. That would destroy Earth. Billions of lives. A necessary sacrifice to end this threat, Azoth replied. Wait, Terry pleaded. Our immunity could be the key. Give us a chance to stop it without obliterating inhabited worlds. Silence stretched for several agonizing moments before Azoth responded. You have one standard rotation. After that, we deploy the weapon, regardless of collateral damage. As the Saurian ships pulled back, Terry urged his team forward. Let's move! They swam deeper into the Hydros, the core's pulsing growing stronger. Suddenly, the liquid around them began to shift and coalesce. Watch out! Terry yelled as a massive tentacle formed, swinging towards them. The team scattered, narrowly avoiding the strike. More constructs appeared, bizarre amalgamations of Earth's prehistoric sea creatures. Teeth and claws made of solidified water slashed at them. Terry noticed the constructs focusing their attacks on the few remaining Saurians. They're targeting the Saurians more aggressively, he realized. The Hydros must perceive them as the greater threat. Fighting through waves of watery monsters, they finally reached the core, a swirling vortex of energy at the Hydros center. Plant the warheads, Terry ordered. As they worked, the Hydros convulsed violently. Energy pulses rippled through its body, growing in intensity. It knows we're here, Dr. Chen shouted. We're running out of time. Terry made a split-second decision. We don't have time to plant them all. We'll have to detonate what we've got and hope it's enough. He opened a channel to Azoth. Commander, we're activating the warheads. We need immediate extraction. Understood, Azoth replied, surprise evident in his voice. Launching rescue pods now. Everyone out, Terry yelled to his team. They swam frantically through the Hydro's interior, dodging energy pulses and water constructs. Terry clutched the detonator, his thumb hovering over the button. As soon as they cleared the outer membrane of the Hydros, Terry pressed it. The explosion rocked the creature from within, a blinding light erupting from its core. Rescue pods scooped up Terry's team moments before the Hydros began to implode. From the safety of Azoth's ship, they watched the massive creature collapse in on itself, dissipating into harmless particles. Earth was safe. Humanity had done the impossible. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as Zephyr and Azoth entered. Hundreds of alien diplomats from across the galaxy filled the vast, domed room. The Saurian ambassador limped to the central podium, his scales still raw from the Hydro's encounter. Zephyr cleared his throat. Esteemed council members, I stand before you today to recount an unprecedented event. Humanity, a species we dismissed as primitive, has accomplished what we thought impossible. He described the harrowing journey into the Hydro's core, emphasizing the humans' inexplicable immunity. I watched as Secretary General Sullivan and his team swam through corrosive fluid that would have dissolved any of us in seconds. Their perseverance never wavered, even in the face of certain death. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A Krill representative's tentacles writhed skeptically. This immunity seems convenient. How do we know it wasn't a fluke? Commander Azoth stepped forward. I witnessed it myself. The humans neutralized a threat that has plagued our galaxy for millennia. We cannot ignore this. Debate raged for hours. Some council members cited humanity's violent history, while others argued for further investigation. Finally, a consensus emerged. We will send a research team to Earth, the council elder announced. Led by Dr. Kylaz, they will study this immunity and its potential applications. Back on Earth, Terry Sullivan stood before a sea of cameras and microphones. Today we celebrate a victory for our entire planet, he began, voice thick with emotion. But we must never forget those who sacrificed everything to make it possible. Later, alone in his office, Terry stared at the wall of photos, faces of those lost in the Hydro's mission. He took a deep breath, shoulders heavy with the weight of command. A gentle knock interrupted his brooding. Dr. Kylaz entered, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in excitement. Secretary General, we've made a breakthrough. In the lab, Terry watched as Dr. Kylaz's team exposed human cells to a droplet of preserved Hydros fluid. The cells not only survived, but seemed to thrive, multiplying rapidly. Fascinating, Dr. Kylaz chittered. It appears the human cells are actively neutralizing the toxins. We've isolated a previously unknown gene sequence responsible for this ability. Terry leaned in, captivated. What does this mean? We believe this gene evolved as a defense against Earth's primordial conditions, Dr. Kylaz explained. It grants humans unprecedented cellular regeneration and environmental resilience. Eager to replicate their findings, the team attempted to integrate the human gene sequence into Saurian DNA. The results were catastrophic. Terry watched in horror as the test subjects writhed in agony, their bodies twisting into grotesque shapes before going still. Dr. Kylaz's shoulders slumped. The gene sequence appears incompatible with non-human biology. Perhaps it's too specialized, too uniquely terrestrial. Despite the setback, the xenobiologist's eyes gleamed with a new idea. He turned to Terry. Secretary General, I have a proposal. What if we could harness this immunity, create a specialized human task force capable of neutralizing galactic threats? Terry's brow furrowed. You mean, like some kind of elite bio-soldier unit? Dr. Kylaz nodded eagerly. Precisely. Humans could go where no other species can, face dangers that would obliterate others. You could become the galaxy's ultimate line of defense. Terry rubbed his chin, mind racing with possibilities and potential consequences. That's a lot to consider, Doctor. We'd need to discuss this further. As they left the lab, Terry couldn't shake the feeling that humanity stood on the precipice of a new era, one that would reshape their place in the cosmos forever. Terry Sullivan stood before the United Nations Security Council, his voice steady as he presented Dr. Kylaz's proposal. "We have an opportunity to forge a new path for humanity," he said. "The Aquanauts Initiative will harness our unique biology to protect not just Earth, but the entire galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. After hours of intense debate, the council voted. The Aquanauts program was greenlit. Over the next months, a global recruitment drive scoured military and scientific institutions. The chosen few endured grueling tests of physical and mental fortitude. In state-of-the-art facilities, they pushed the limits of human potential. Captain Sarah Chen dove into a pool of corrosive liquid, her skin tingling as she swam laps. Nearby, Dr. Marcus Reeves operated a holographic interface, his fingers dancing across alien symbols as he deciphered Saurian technology. "Again!" barked their drill instructor. Sarah surfaced, gasping for air, Marcus's brow furrowed in concentration. In the labs, Dr. Kylaz hunched over a microscope, his four eyes blinking rapidly. "Fascinating," he chittered. "The human cells are adapting even faster than predicted." His team worked tirelessly, developing biosuits that hugged the Aquanauts' bodies like second skins. In a sealed chamber, they tested a prototype. Noxious gas hissed from vents, but the suited human inside remained unharmed. Months of research culminated in a breakthrough. In a containment tank, a writhing mass of tissue pulsed with life, a hybrid organism born of human and synthetic DNA. Dr. Kylaz's mandibles clicked excitedly. "It's alive, and thriving in conditions that would kill most life forms." Word of the Aquanauts' progress spread. The Galactic Council convened, holographic representatives flickering to life in the chamber. "We propose a mission," the Saurian delegate announced. "A toxic planetoid unconquered by any previous expedition. Will your Aquanauts accept the challenge?" Terry's fists tight. He glanced at his team, saw the fire in their eyes. "We accept." Aboard the Saurian vessel, Terry addressed his squad. Sarah Chen, Marcus Reeves, and 3 others stood at attention, resplendent in their biosuits. "This is what we've trained for," Terry said. "Let's show the galaxy what humanity can do." The ship's view screen flared to life, revealing a sickly green orb. Toxic storms raged across its surface. "Atmospheric acidity off the charts," Marcus reported. "It'll eat through conventional materials in seconds." Terry nodded. "Aquanauts, deploy." They plunged from the ship, biosuits glowing as they pierced the corrosive atmosphere. Caustic rain pelted their helmets. The ground sizzled beneath their feet. "Vital stable," Sarah reported. "The suits are holding." They trudged across the barren landscape. Pools of bubbling acid dotted the terrain. In the distance, Terry spotted something impossible. Structures. "There," he pointed. "Those look artificial." As they approached, details emerged. Towering spires of an alien metal, untouched by the corrosive environment. Marcus scanned the nearest building. "These alloys," he marveled. "They're unlike anything in our database." Inside, they found remnants of an ancient civilization. Strange symbols carved into walls. Artifacts of unknown purpose, perfectly preserved. "Look," Sarah called out. She indicated a mural depicting humanoid figures. They lived here, thrived here. Deeper they ventured, encountering pockets of volatile compounds. The ground beneath them rumbled ominously. "Careful," Terry warned. "One wrong step could—" A stray pebble kicked up by Marcus ignited a chemical reaction. The cavern flared with searing light, but as quickly as it erupted, the Aquanauts' presence seemed to calm the volatile substances. "Our biology," Marcus realized. "It's neutralizing the compounds." They pressed on, eventually discovering a massive sealed door. Exotic metals defied their every attempt to breach it. "Ideas?" Terry asked. Sarah studied the door. The compounds we encountered earlier, if we can harness that reaction. They worked in tandem, human ingenuity and bio-augmented abilities combining. With a thunderous crack, the barrier gave way. Beyond lay a vast underground complex. Eerie bioluminescent growths cast everything in an otherworldly glow. As they explored, a chilling picture emerged. "These readings," Marcus said, his voice hushed. "They were experimenting with something that got out of control." Sarah nodded grimly. A civilization destroyed by its own hubris. They gathered what data and artifacts they could, transmitting their findings to the orbiting Saurian vessel. As they made their way back to the surface, the ground began to shake violently. Our intrusion, Terry realized. It's destabilized something. The complex groaned around them. Chunks of alien metal crashed down, blocking their exit. "We're trapped," Sarah shouted over the din. Terry's mind raced. He eyed a nearby pocket of volatile compounds, an idea forming. "I've got a plan," he said, "but it's risky as hell." Terry's eyes darted around the crumbling chamber. "Everyone, move! Service tunnel now!" The aquanauts sprinted towards a narrow opening, ducking under falling debris. Sarah led the way, her suit's sensors guiding them through the maze-like passage. "We need to trigger a controlled reaction," Terry shouted over the rumbling. "Marcus, prep the compounds." Marcus worked swiftly, combining volatile substances from their surroundings. The tunnel groaned ominously above them. "Ready," Marcus called out. "On my mark," Terry ordered. 3, 2, 1, now! A blinding flash erupted as the compounds ignited. The shockwave tore through the tunnel, clearing their path but showering them with shrapnel and dust. Terry threw himself over his team, his enhanced biosuit absorbing the brunt of the impact. Pain lanced through his body, but he pushed it aside. They emerged onto the planet's surface, gasping for breath. Acidic rain pelted their helmets as the complex collapsed behind them. "Comms are down," Sarah reported, tapping her suit's controls. "We need to reach the extraction point." They set off across the treacherous landscape. Geysers of noxious gas erupted around them, filling the air with choking fumes. "Watch your step," Marcus warned as they navigated a field of razor-sharp crystals. The formations sliced at their suits, but the reinforced material held. Aboard the Saurian vessel, Dr. Kylaz's 4 eyes widened in alarm. "Massive detonation detected on the surface." The alien crew scrambled to action stations. Tense minutes passed before a technician called out, "Biosignatures detected. They're alive." On the planet below, Terry led his team over a ridge. The extraction point lay just ahead, but the ground beneath their feet had begun to shake violently. "Move, move!" Terry urged as fissures split the earth, spewing toxic vapors skyward. The Saurian ship descended through the turbulent atmosphere. A reinforced umbilical snaked down towards the surface. "Go!" Terry shouted. One by one, his team latched onto the line and were yanked upwards to safety. As Terry reached for the umbilical, the ground gave way beneath him. He leapt, enhanced muscles propelling him through the air. His fingers closed around the line just as a massive chasm opened where he'd stood moments before. The ship rocketed away from the disintegrating planet. Through the view screen, they watched as the rogue world tore itself apart in a cataclysmic light show. In the medbay, Dr. Kylaz examined the aquanauts with growing excitement. "Extraordinary. Your cellular regeneration has increased exponentially. Even severe tissue damage is healing before our eyes." Terry winced as a dermal regenerator passed over his battered body. "What does this mean for the program?" Dr. Kylaz's mandibles clicked rapidly. "It means, Secretary General, that humanity has proven itself an invaluable asset to the galaxy. The Council will have no choice but to recognize your potential." As the ship sped towards Earth, carrying its precious cargo of artifacts and data, Terry knew their success would open new doors for humanity's place among the stars. The aquanauts had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, forever changing the course of galactic history. The aquanauts' triumphant return to Earth was short-lived. As they stepped off the Saurian vessel, cameras flashing and reporters clamoring for interviews, an urgent message crackled through Terry's comm unit. "Sullivan, report to HQ immediately," a tense voice ordered. In the command center, a massive holographic display filled the room with swirling patterns of light. Admiral Zhao pointed to a pulsating red anomaly. "This appeared 48 hours ago," she explained. "It's growing." Terry leaned in, studying the rift's jagged edges. "What are we looking at?" Dr. Kailas scuttled forward, mandibles clicking rapidly. "A tear in space-time itself. Our sensors picked it up across multiple systems." The Galactic Council convened via hologram, alien faces flickering with concern. A Centauri representative spoke, its voice a series of musical tones. "This disturbance threatens the fabric of our reality. We must act swiftly." Dr. Kailas's four eyes blinked rapidly as he processed data streams. "The artifacts we recovered, I believe they've triggered this phenomenon. That lost civilization harnessed energies beyond our comprehension." Terry's mind raced back to the rogue planetoid, the strange symbols etched into alien metal. "You're saying we accidentally activated some kind of doomsday device?" "Unintentionally, yes," Dr. Kailas chittered. "But now you may be our only hope of stopping it." The Council's decision was unanimous. Terry found himself aboard a sleek saurian vessel, unlike any he'd seen before. Its hull shimmered with an opalescent sheen, quantum stabilizers humming softly. Sarah Chen, his second-in-command, ran her hand along a bulkhead. "Nice ride." Terry nodded, surveying his team. Marcus Reeves, their resident genius, was already elbow-deep in alien tech. Dr. Elena Petrova, xenoarchaeologist, pored over holographic renderings of the artifacts they'd recovered. Rounding out the group was Major Jack Harper, a grizzled veteran of a dozen otherworldly conflicts. As they approached the rift, reality itself seemed to warp. Stars stretched into impossible shapes, light bending at unnatural angles. "Entering the anomaly in 3, 2, 1, the Saurian pilot announced. The ship shuddered as they crossed the threshold. Alarms blared, and for a heart-stopping moment, every system went dark. Then, with a surge of power, the quantum stabilizers kicked in. "Status report!" Terry barked. Sarah's fingers danced across a control panel. Shields holding, but barely. These distortions are unlike anything we've encountered. Outside the viewports, space twisted into nightmarish geometries. Ribbons of energy crackled past, arcing between pockets of warped space-time. Dr. Kilaz emerged from the shielded science bay, his exoskeleton creaking. Fascinating. The laws of physics themselves are in flux here. Our saurian physiology can't withstand prolonged exposure. Terry nodded grimly. Looks like it's up to us then. Suit up, Aquanauts. They donned their advanced biosuits, sleek and responsive as a second skin. As they prepared to venture out, a massive structure loomed ahead, a colossal gate of impossible architecture, pulsing with otherworldly energy. "That's our target," Terry said, his voice steady despite the awe he felt. "Let's shut it down." They stepped into the airlock, the ship's protective field flickering around them. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the outer doors slid open. Terry took a deep breath, then pushed off into the swirling chaos of the rift. His team followed, their biosuits glowing faintly as they absorbed the surrounding energy. As they approached the ancient gateway, its surface rippled and shifted. Glyphs of alien design flared to life, pulsing with an eerie rhythm. Marcus studied the patterns intently. "It's like nothing I've ever seen. The quantum fluctuations are off the charts." Suddenly, the space around them warped. Terry felt a sickening lurch as reality itself seemed to twist. When his vision cleared, they faced a labyrinth of impossible corridors, each defying the laws of Euclidean geometry. "Stay close," Terry ordered. "We need to find the power source." They pushed deeper into the structure, encountering mind-bending traps and defenses. In one chamber, gravity reversed without warning. In another, time itself seemed to flow backwards. Their biosuits strained against the onslaught of quantum energies, but held firm. The same couldn't be said for their Saurian allies, who monitored their progress from the relative safety of the ship. After what felt like hours of navigating the twisted maze, they emerged into a vast central chamber. At its heart stood a colossal reactor, crackling with unimaginable power. Terry assessed the situation quickly. "We need to overload it. Controlled pulses to trigger a cascade failure." They spread out, each taking a position around the quantum core. Terry's fingers flew across his suit's interface, synchronizing with his team. "On my mark," he called out. 3, 2, 1, now!" Energy surged from their suits, striking the reactor in perfect harmony. The air itself seemed to scream as reality buckled around them. Alarms blared, and the structure began to shake violently. "It's working!" Marcus shouted over the din. "But we need to move, now!" They sprinted back through the twisting corridors, each step bringing them closer to oblivion as the gateway collapsed behind them. The very fabric of space-time unraveled in their wake. Terry's lungs burned as they finally reached the extraction point. The Saurian ship hovered just beyond the rift's edge, its shield straining against the dimensional storm. "Jump!" Terry yelled, hurling himself towards the flickering safety of the ship's containment field. Terry's fingers closed around the flickering edge of the ship's containment field. He pulled himself through, gasping as the familiar atmosphere enveloped him, but his relief was short-lived. A deafening crack split the air. Tendrils of raw energy lashed out from the collapsing gateway, whipping across the void. Terry shouted a warning, but his words were swallowed by the cacophony of reality tearing itself apart. "Evasive maneuvers!" Dr. Kylaz screeched, his exoskeleton clattering as he gripped a console. The ship lurched, narrowly avoiding a massive energy surge. Terry stumbled, his enhanced reflexes barely keeping him upright. He scanned the hold, counting heads. Sarah, Marcus, Elena, Jack. They'd made it. But the danger was just the beginning. "We need more power to the quantum stabilizers," Sarah yelled, her fingers dancing across a control panel. Outside the viewports, space itself seemed to bend and twist. Ribbons of impossible color streaked past, defying description. The ship shuddered under the assault of energies never meant to exist in their universe. Terry fought his way to the command deck. "Status report!" A Saurian technician chittered rapidly, translating into staccato English. "Shields at 62% and falling. Spatial distortions increasing exponentially." "Plot a course out of here," Terry ordered. "Maximum speed." The ship's engines whined as they pushed to full power. For a moment, it seemed they might outrun the collapsing rift. Then everything went sideways. A shockwave of unimaginable force slammed into the vessel. Alarms blared. Emergency lights flashed crimson. Terry felt a sickening lurch in his stomach as artificial gravity failed. "Terry!" Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. She reached for him, her eyes wide with panic. He lunged, fingers outstretched. Their hands were inches apart when reality itself seemed to hiccup. In that impossible instant, Terry saw everything. The ship, his team, the swirling maelstrom of the rift, all frozen in a single crystalline moment. Then, the moment shattered. Terry felt himself yanked backward by an irresistible force. The last thing he saw was Sarah's horrified face as a vortex of swirling energy engulfed him. He tumbled through impossible geometries, senses overloaded by stimuli never meant for human perception. Time lost all meaning. He could have been falling for seconds or centuries. Then abruptly nothing. On the ship, Dr. Kylaz stared at the readouts in disbelief. His biosignature? It's gone. "What do you mean gone?" Sarah demanded, her voice raw. The Saurian's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "He's been pulled into a dimensional vortex. We have to leave now." "We can't just," Sarah began, but her protests were cut short as another shockwave rocked the ship. Dr. Kylaz's appendages flew across the controls. "Launching quantum beacon. It's our only chance of tracking him." A sleek projectile shot from the ship's hull, its systems pulsing with energy as it followed Terry's last known trajectory. "Hold on!" the pilot shouted. The ship rocketed away from the imploding gateway, engines straining against the laws of physics. Behind them, the rift collapsed in on itself with a silent flash that lit up half the galaxy. They'd escaped, but at what cost? Days later, in a stark briefing room on Earth, Admiral Zhao addressed the assembled dignitaries. Her usually impeccable uniform was rumpled, dark circles under her eyes betraying sleepless nights. Ladies and gentlemen of the Galactic Council, esteemed representatives of Earth's nations, I come before you with news both triumphant and tragic. She paused, gathering herself. The Aquanauts have succeeded in neutralizing the interdimensional threat. The rift has been sealed and the gateway destroyed. A murmur of relief rippled through the crowd, quickly silenced as Zhao continued. However, I regret to inform you that during the operation, we lost contact with Secretary General Sullivan. His current status and whereabouts are unknown. The room erupted in shocked whispers and urgent questions. Zhao raised a hand for silence. We are mobilizing every available resource for a search and rescue operation. Commander Azoth will lead a specialized team equipped with our most advanced technology. In the weeks that followed, hope dwindled. Azoth's team scoured the remnants of the spatial rift, finding nothing but echoes and aftermath. Then, just as the Council prepared to call off the search, a breakthrough. In a cluttered lab deep beneath UN headquarters, Dr. Kylaz hunched over a holographic display. Data streams scrolled past at dizzying speeds, incomprehensible to human eyes. The remaining Aquanauts crowded around, tension palpable. There, Elena exclaimed, pointing to a barely perceptible anomaly in the data. Dr. Kylaz's mandibles clicked excitedly. Incredible! A quantum signature faint but unmistakable. Is it Terry? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The Saurian scientist's eyes blinked in rapid succession. It matches his unique biosignature, but the readings are unlike anything I've ever seen. Marcus leaned in, studying the readouts. It's as if he's everywhere and nowhere at once. How is that possible? Dr. Kylaz's exoskeleton creaked as he shifted. I have a theory, but you're not going to like it. The team listened in stunned silence as the Saurian laid out his hypothesis. Terry, trapped in a higher dimensional plane, a realm beyond their comprehension, where the very laws of reality broke down. So how do we get him back? Jack demanded, his gruff voice tinged with desperation. Dr. Kylaz's answer was simple and terrifying. We don't know if we can. But they had to try. In labs and think tanks across the galaxy, the greatest minds of a dozen species worked tirelessly. They pushed the boundaries of theoretical physics, delving into realms of science that blurred the line between genius and madness. And somewhere, in a place beyond space and time, Terry Sullivan waited, lost but not forgotten. A man out of place in a universe out of joint. Azoth's claws clicked against the quantum-reinforced hull of the breach vessel. His team of Saurian operatives stood at the ready, their bodies encased in sleek, interdimensional traversal suits. The air crackled with tension as the final preparations were made. Initiating breach sequence, Azoth announced, his voice steady despite the weight of their mission. The vessel's engines hummed to life, emitting a high-pitched whine that set teeth on edge. Reality itself seemed to bend around them as they approached the microscopic rift. Breach in 3, 2, 1. A blinding flash engulfed them. Azoth felt his body disintegrate, atoms scattering across dimensions. For an eternal instant, he ceased to exist. Then, with a nauseating lurch, he snapped back into being. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, struggling to process the impossible landscape before him. Fractals spiraled in every direction, folding in on themselves in ways that defied Euclidean geometry. Colors that had no right to exist bled across writhing geometric forms. Azoth's team materialized beside him, their suits glowing faintly as they absorbed the raw energy permeating this realm. Deploy scanners, Azoth ordered, fighting to keep his voice steady. Find Sullivan's signature. The Saurians fanned out, activating wrist-mounted devices that pulsed with quantum energy. Data streams flickered across their visors, a cacophony of impossibilities. "Sir," one of the operatives called out, "I'm detecting something. It's unlike any biosign I've ever seen." Azoth moved to investigate, his exoskeleton whirring as it compensated for the warped physics of this place. The scanner's readout flickered wildly, human DNA intertwined with quantum strings that shouldn't exist. They pressed forward, following the trail of impossible data. The landscape shifted around them, reality rewriting itself with each step. And then they saw it. Suspended in a web of crackling energy filaments hung a human figure, its body twisted in ways that should have been fatal, flickering in and out of existence across multiple planes. "Sullivan," Azoth breathed. Terry's form pulsed with otherworldly energy, his very atoms seeming to dance between dimensions. His eyes were open, but unseeing, gazing into realms beyond mortal comprehension. "Initiate extraction," Azoth commanded. "Deploy the containment field." The team moved with practiced precision, activating devices that projected a shimmering barrier around Terry's suspended form. For a moment, it seemed to be working. The energy web began to disentangle, Terry's body slowly coalescing into a single state of being. Then everything went wrong. A wave of force exploded outward, shattering the containment field. Azoth was thrown backward, his exoskeleton screeching in protest. Alarms blared in his helmet as reality itself began to warp and tear around them. "Abort!" Azoth shouted. "We need to pull back." As his team regrouped, a voice crackled over their comms. It was Dr. Kylaz, monitoring from Earth. "The extraction is causing dimensional instabilities," the Saurian scientist reported, his words clipped with urgency. "You need to disengage immediately. We're implementing Plan B." Azoth hesitated, looking back at Terry's suspended form. But he knew they had no choice. With a reluctant nod, he gave the order to withdraw. As they prepared to breach back to their own dimension, Azoth caught a glimpse of Terry's face. For just a moment, he could have sworn he saw a flicker of awareness in those distant eyes, a spark of something beyond human. Then the world dissolved around them once more, hurling them back across the cosmic divide. On Earth, the Aquanauts sprang into action. They'd prepared for this contingency, but the reality of it still felt unreal. Sarah's hands flew across a console, repurposing recovered alien tech into something new and terrifying. "Dimensional anchor array online," she reported, her voice tight with concentration. Marcus nodded, sweat beading on his brow as he fine-tuned the quantum harmonics. "Subspace field generator powering up. We're really doing this, aren't we? Creating our own pocket universe?" "It's our only shot," Elena replied, her eyes never leaving the readout streaming across her screen. "If we don't contain the resonance cascade..." She didn't need to finish the thought. They all knew the stakes. Dr. Kylaz's exoskeleton whirred as he moved between workstations, four eyes darting from screen to screen. "Azoth's team is clear. Initiating anchor sequence. Now!" Energy surged through the repurposed alien artifacts. The air itself seemed to ripple as a localized subspace field sprang into existence. Within that impossible bubble, they could see Terry's quantum signature, still flickering between states of being. "It's working," Sarah breathed. "We've got him." But their relief was short-lived. As the pocket universe stabilized, new alarms began to sound. "What's happening?" Jack demanded. Dr. Kylaz chittered in agitation. "The quantum imprint. It's changing, evolving. I've never seen anything like this." On the main view screen, Terry's suspended form pulsed with otherworldly energy. Data streams scrolled past, painting a picture none of them fully understood. "Is he aware?" Elena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before anyone could answer, a priority alert flashed across their screens. The Galactic Council was convening an emergency session. As the Aquanauts rushed to present their findings, none of them noticed the subtle patterns forming in the quantum data. Patterns that, to an impossibly advanced intellect, might almost look like words. "I am here. I am everywhere. I am." The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension as representatives from across the cosmos argued over the fate of Terry Sullivan. Admiral Zhao stood at the center, her voice cutting through the cacophony. "We cannot ignore the potential risks," she stated, her eyes scanning the assembled dignitaries. "The pocket universe housing Secretary Sullivan's consciousness is unstable. We must consider termination." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, but they were quickly silenced as Dr. Kylaz surged forward, his exoskeleton whirring with agitation. "Termination?" the Saurian scientist exclaimed, mandibles clicking rapidly. "We stand on the precipice of unparalleled discovery. To sever this link would be an unconscionable waste." Sarah stepped up beside him, her face set with fierce perseverance. "Terry's not just some lab experiment. He's our friend, our leader. We owe it to him to try." The chamber erupted into heated debate. Voices rose and fell, arguments flying back and forth like charged particles in an accelerator. Holographic displays flickered to life, showcasing simulations of potential outcomes, some promising, others catastrophic. Hours passed. The air grew thick with tension. Finally, a compromise emerged. "Very well," Admiral Zhao announced, her voice heavy with the weight of command. "Dr. Kailas, you and your team will have one chance to establish contact. But at the first sign of critical instability, we pull the plug. Understood?" The Saurian scientist nodded, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession. "Understood, Admiral. We won't let you down." With the Council's tentative approval secured, the Aquanauts threw themselves into their work. Days blurred into nights as they labored over the quantum interface array. Sarah's fingers flew across holographic keyboards, fine-tuning algorithms that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Jack and Elena worked in tandem, assembling delicate components that glowed with otherworldly energy. Dr. Kylaz moved between workstations, his exoskeleton creaking as he pored over readouts and made minute adjustments. The air crackled with a mixture of excitement and dread. As the interface neared completion, alarms suddenly blared through the lab. Marcus cursed, his hands dancing across a control panel. "Terry's quantum signature is destabilizing," he reported, sweat beading on his brow. "The pocket universe can't contain him." Dr. Kylaz chittered urgently, his eyes darting between screens. "We need more power, more space. We must expand the pocket universe itself." The Aquanauts exchanged glances, the audacity of the plan sinking in. Sarah was the first to nod. "Let's do it." What followed was a Herculean effort spanning star systems. Quantum generators spun up across a dozen worlds. Stabilizer arrays, each the size of a small moon, hummed to life. Energy output that could have powered entire civilizations for millennia was channeled into a single, reality-bending purpose. In the control center, the Aquanauts worked with frantic precision. Readouts scrolled past at dizzying speeds as they carefully guided the expansion process. The fabric of space-time itself groaned under the strain. "Initiating final sequence," Dr. Kylaz announced, his voice tight with concentration. "Stand by for contact." A hush fell over the room. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soundless flash that seemed to reverberate through their very atoms, contact was established. The main view screen erupted with impossible geometries and colors that shouldn't exist. Within that swirling chaos, a pattern emerged, a familiar presence that tugged at their hearts. "Terry?" Sarah whispered, her voice choked with emotion. No words came in response, but they felt it, a vast, alien consciousness acknowledging their presence. Data streamed across their screens, conveying concepts that strained the limits of their comprehension. Dr. Kylaz's mandibles quivered as he processed the information. "Incredible. He's become something more, something beyond our understanding." But as they basked in the triumph of contact, Terry's consciousness pulsed with urgent warning. Images flashed through their minds, cosmic entities of unimaginable power, slumbering giants that could reshape reality with a thought. The message was clear. Terry's extraction risked awakening these ancient forces, unleashing devastation on a cosmic scale. Silence fell over the control room as the implications sank in. The Aquanauts looked at each other, anguish etched on their faces. Dr. Kailas's exoskeleton sagged with the weight of the decision before them. Then, through the quantum link, they felt a surge of emotion from Terry, acceptance, determination, and a profound sense of farewell. His consciousness began to disperse, spreading into the expanded pocket universe. With trembling hands, Sarah reached for the controls. Tears streamed down her face as she initiated the sealing sequence. The quantum interface powered down, severing their connection to Terry's transcendent form. In that moment, as alarms faded and screens went dark, the true cost of their victory became heartbreakingly clear. Terry Sullivan, their friend and leader, was gone, sacrificed to safeguard the very galaxy he had sworn to protect.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.